At the creation of cosmic horror sits Howard Phillips Lovecraft, a deeply disturbed writer who is the creator of the characters we will see today, known as the Cthulhu mythos. Who is Cthulhu? You might recognize this clip.
Cthulhu, 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 Cthulhu. Yeah! The evil, hate-filled Cthulhu from a dimension far away.
Today's episode of Murder on the Gore-ient Express is Lovecraft Lagoon, Part 1. The emerging temple scene where a number of cultists and monsters gather to summon the ancient Cthulhu from his nap time in the city of R'lyeh. Our goal is to make it look like the ocean floor has suddenly risen to the surface along with these ancient stones. We've got about a dozen stones and a main temple acting as the centerpiece for this section of the table. They all get base painted with a dark blue-gray, being careful not to obscure the fine details etched in the ruin. The ancient city of R'lyeh is known for how Lovecraft describes it as non-Euclidean architecture, along with the sights and smells of decay. What does non-Euclidean mean? It means all the buildings are all slanty and stuff. I'm hitting all the stones with a mossy green wash. This will sink into all those etchings and pull at the bottom corners to create an algae effect, which we will also enhance later with flock. This wash I did use dish soap in because I didn't want to stain the stones but rather shade them with green. This will be the center of the ritual, the Temple of Cthulhu. Cthulhu has cults that worship him and attempt to summon him. We're going to treat this the same way as the surrounding stones for now, with a dark blue gray spray coat. I'm going to use an even heavier application of the green wash. I'm going to use the last little bit I have of this forest green turf. This will act as our bigger patches of algae buildup. This particular type of flock is just dyed and shredded sponge-like material, really easy for glue to soak into. I'm going to place the patches of algae strategically in where it would naturally build, in cracks on edges. And while I'm at it, I'm going to do the same thing to all the ritual stones too. Then once the glue dries, I'm going to bring out the zoop goop, or high gloss acrylic varnish. This will make everything look wet like it just came from the bottom of the ocean. Since this is supposed to look like it just emerged from the bottom of the ocean, stuff will still need to look wet. But it's important not to coat everything evenly, but once again applying in areas that puddles will naturally form. If I coated everything, it would look more like toys than they already do. The first character we're painting is the Dunwich Horror, from the story of the same name. The Dunwich Horror takes place in a small New England town where people start to suspect that there's an invisible monster roaming around town. It's being holed away in a farmhouse that the Whately family has to keep doing some, HGTV shit to keep it contained. When the farmer dies, the growing mass of the horror eventually outgrows the farmhouse, allowing it to run free. Remind you, it's invisible. Anyway, story, and some nerds do magic that reveal the monster, and it looks like this thing I'm painting. Tentacles, a common Lovecraft feature, and a bunch of sharp, toothy teeth. Twist ending, this was the son of the farmer that was a result of messing around with dark magics. Don't do that, kids. Look what a difference washes make, especially on this model with all the trypophobia looking holes and ridges. I've used this on other parts of the table, but this is called Muso Black, and it claims to be the blackest black, and I love using it for dead eyes. Cthulhu is... we all know who Cthulhu is at this point, right? He's re-emerged into the pop culture zeitgeist in a big way in the last decade or two. Anyway, if you don't know, he's an alien god from the story, The Call of Cthulhu. He is a descendant of a beyond ancient pantheon of cosmic gods, who fell to Earth in a time before humanity, and now lay sleeping in the ancient city of R'lyeh. The story implies that there are cults that worship Cthulhu in hopes that he awakens to rule over humanity. His presence distorts reality and often drives witnesses insane. We are replicating his emergence from the depths thanks to this yellow-robed cult. He will be mid-rise, which is why I've opted to only use the top half of the figure. He's going to be bursting out of the lagoon. Dagon is my favorite Lovecraft story. It tells of a soldier who escapes imprisonment during the Great War by yeeting himself overboard. He floats on a small boat for days when he notices the ocean floor has risen to the surface. He waits another few days for the muck to dry, and he heads on foot towards a mountain in the distance. In the valley of the mountain, he sees an obelisk with a hideous sea creature that drives him insane. It's a common theme. On to Lovecraft's other common theme, tentacles and eyes. No better embodiment of that than a Shoggoth. Except maybe Azathoth, but how do you even print something like him? Anyway, Shoggoths are from a few stories in the Cthulhu mythos, but get more recognition in At the Mountains of Madness. Shoggoths are amorphous blobs of eyes, teeth, and tentacles that are able to echo voices they have heard. Remember that bear in Annihilation? Kinda like that. To get slimy looking results, I did my best to wet blend the various color layers with the paints and sponges. Washes make a huge difference in the tentacly textures. And the many eyes get more of that Muso black. I didn't film it, but I added some varnish onto the goopy looking areas of the classic Shoggoth. The paint I used on Dagon took forever to dry. I don't know why. It wasn't that thin, but I painted the obelisk gray and then hit the entire sculpture with a dark Prussian blue wash. Next are the Deep Ones, worshippers of both Cthulhu and Dagon. They are humanoid fish creatures, and in some stories, like the Shadow over Innsmouth, they even made deals to breed with humans in exchange for treasures. I painted them this gray color, but I forgot to record the greenish wash they get. I painted the summoning cultists in yellow robes as a nod to the story The King in Yellow. While not a Lovecraft story, it is considered part of the Cthulhu mythos. It tells of a play of the same name that even reading the script describing the king would drive you insane. Are you getting tired of that theme yet? 'Cause I ain't. I sponged a light ice blue onto Dagon to make the top of his scales and fins shine. This really helped with his face detail. But I'm going around and gluing the ruins in place with a hefty amount of hot glue because the ground is a bit uneven where I'm placing them. Simple circle configuration around the temple with an open path to the water. And then I used Sculptamold to blend them in. I didn't want them to feel like they were just sitting on top. Using half a bottle of dark blue-gray to cover the whole area in a base color. I love this color because it feels like cold stone, which is kind of what we're going for. I usually thin my washes down quite a bit, but I wanted deeper puddles to form, so I left more pigment in this ratio. This is Prussian blue, like we did with Dagon. I then employed a fairly heavy dry brush of Camel Tan. Because I used a larger brush, the smaller nooks and crannies will stay dark blue, for now. I started off with the mossy green wash and puddles only, but I liked how it looked, so I got overzealous and covered the whole area. Luckily the wash was thinned down a lot, so it only settled in certain areas anyway. If you want to know why I call this Zoop Goop, you gotta go back to my Fermi Farm episode. But I put this in the area where the algae color settled most. I didn't want to cover the whole area of the map in this stuff, because then everything looks too uniform. But when the light catches this stuff just right, it sells the effect. Time to address the giant empty area. This is the rest of the lagoon I'm going to fill in with resin in part 2. But for now I'm going to hold Cthulhu and Dagon in place with some blue tack. The resin will hold them in place when I pour that later. Now enjoy the silence of me not talking for a bit while I glue things in position and you watch the final pictures. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to do all the YouTubey things. Next episode is Gothic Graveyard, a throwback to classic monsters.